What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Scratch Agency Podcast, hosted by Scratch Agents for Scratch Agents. My name's Stephen Turnbull, founder of T5 Insurance Services in Clinton, New York, and I'm joined by my co-host today, the one and only, you already know, hold your applause, Mr. Shawn Fitzgerald, founder of Sound Harbor Insurance in Long Island, New York. Ladies and gentlemen, this show is brought to you by Hawksoft, your family-owned and operated agency management system serving independent agencies with teams from 1 to 300 plus employees. Brad, an agency owner in Minnesota, says that we love Hawksoft, we love the people, the product, and we couldn't live without it. Mr. Fitzgerald, I already know how you're doing today. I'm super excited for our guest today, so we're going to roll right into it. We have Jeff Roy, who's president and CEO of Excalibur Insurance Group out of Clinton, Ontario. So it's not Clinton, New York, everybody. We got two Clintons represented in the house today. Jeff, I appreciate you taking the time to join us. How are you?
Hey, good, Stephen. Shawn, awesome to be on the show, and I can't believe there's two Clintons in the world besides Bill Clinton, but we won't mention him.
Not right now, we shouldn't. No,
not right now. No. So,
but Jeff,
we're not getting political today. I was just down doing a keynote down in Fort Lauderdale, and 400 agents talking about AI at Jason Cass's Tech. And it was amazing. And again, I still have the love for all my U.S. friends and agents. I know there's some stuff going on politically, but I love all my friends in the U.S. There's still a tight bond in the industry. So I just want to clear up that off the bat.
That's right. We can joke. We already have the little E thing right next to our podcast, so we can make the jokes. We're good. Jeff,
nice.
A few topics we want to hit and ask you some questions about, your journey and all that. For people who are learning about you for the first time right now, just give us the quick kind of overview of when you guys started, what your agency looks like now, and then we'll get into the topics we want to talk about.
Wow. Do you have an hour?
An hour and a half.
I'll do the quick Coles Notes version. My grandfather started the agency back in the 50s, and he was actually gassed out by mustard gas in World War I. We got into farming and started an insurance agency, and then he started a credit union. So he was an entrepreneur. My dad took over, and he ran it till 97. I got to join in 89. So I came in the door. We had our first computer sitting in a box, and we weren't automated. We had a typewriter. The most innovative thing then, a fax machine came around that time with curly paper. So that was innovation back then. And we had a typewriter that could memorize a liability slip to print multiple slips. So that was my first walk into the agency. From there, I went to university. I worked with my father. I set up a cluster in 95. We're one of the first clusters in Canada because we didn't have enough markets. Ran that for a number of years, basically expanded our brokerage and the Excalibur group. And I would say about 2010, we started getting innovative. We changed our brand, joined some mastermind groups, and got into digital. And basically, that's when things kind of opened up, and we started figuring out how to generate, 1,000 to 1,200 leads a month through the internet. And we built a very innovative workflow to be able to handle those. That was fairly cutting edge. During that time, I spoke to probably, over the last number of years, probably over 30,000 agents in Canada, the U.S., sharing our best practices, talking about culture, branding, all that kind of stuff. And to kind of cap it off, when we merged with a bigger brokerage, McDougall Insurance Group, great bunch of people back in 2024. We were 30 people, and at that point, it was tougher for a smaller broker in Canada to survive because most of the brokerages are becoming $1 billion broker. I would say probably 12 to 14 brokers are controlling 60 to 65% of the market right now. So it was getting harder for a more scratch agency in Canada, which it's not the case in the US. There's a lot of aggregators and ways to do it in the US. So but we saw the writing on the wall. We wanted to get some size and scale. And now my wife and I are currently working with McFarland Rowlands. We still have the Excalibur brand, and we're part of the McDougall group. So that kind of brings it full circle. I've been at it for 36 years. I will tell you, I'm a hockey goalie, and I got hit in the head with a puck when I was younger. That's why I got into insurance. So maybe a head injury that caused me to be an insurance broker. But I will tell all the scratch agents, there's no better business in the world done right than insurance. Just the word done right. I went 3 minutes, so I just wanted to make sure, but a lot to cover off.
I know, right? And I know Shawn's got a lot he wants to say on there, but I messed up. I saw you speak in Chicago, Jeff, and you had the agency branded jersey. And right here, my best man at my wedding made me an agency branded jersey. And I wanted to wear it today, and I forgot, but it's right there, I promise.
I wish I would have brought my jersey. One of the things that you saw in Chicago, that was at IAOA 2023. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I haven't been doing as much speaking since we did the deal, but one of our rituals at our brokerage is when you join Excalibur, you get a jersey and your name on the back and the year you joined. and that's your rite of passage. And you have to be here for 6 months to get it. But it's really powerful when your whole team's wearing a jersey. In Canada, obviously, hockey jerseys are big. The U.S. might be basketball, might be football, might be baseball. There is a little bit of hockey, but that was a cool thing we did culturally that kind of defined us, right? It was kind of a
Yeah,
neat
that's
thing.
super cool. That's super cool. Sean, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. I was gonna say, Jeff, it sounds like you've done some really interesting things, over at Excalibur, and I think you have a good amount of experience that I think you can give a lot of value to the newer agents that are in the industry. I'm just curious, like, what advice, since you've been through it and you've built an agency that only some of us could dream of, right? So I'm curious, like, what advice would you give to newer agents that are struggling with growth or looking to grow a larger agency like you guys?
Yeah, no, I think first of all is a number one painted picture. Sit down and figure out what you want to be when you grow up.
Hmm.
That's one of my favorite lines. But one of my tech groups said, "Hey, go out and sit someplace comfortable, get a piece of paper, get a laptop, and then picture what your agency will be in 5 or 10 years. Imagine what it looks like, how many people work there, what products you have, your clients." Actually visualize it, because if you can see it in your mind's eye and you have an image of it, you can get there. And a lot of people have happenstance where they just open up and whatever happens, happens. I think it's really important to have that painted picture.
Yeah.
So I would say, first of all, figure out what your life looks like. Secondly, I would find some really great agents and look at them. And again, the good thing about our industry, you can phone people up and they'll help you. We got the best competitive industry in the world. I've never not called somebody and they said, "Jeff, I can't tell you it's proprietary." The law of reciprocity is ripe. The more you share, the more you grow, the more it comes back in spades. So find an agent that's been successful and ask them, "How did you get there? What did you do?" And study journey. I would say the third thing is look at your competitors, understand your market, look who's in your market. Figure out what you want to sell. People try and sell anything that moves, and and again, you have to do what you have to do to survive. You're scratch agents. You got to get to that $1 million, so you can feed your family, get to a critical mass. Where you have to start adding staff. So getting to scale, and they'll tell you about scaling up and getting that size is really important. So sometimes you got to do whatever it takes to get to that million. But then some people can do it and say, "I'm going to focus on businesses. I'm going to focus on niches." Mike Stromso, he'll talk about niches and riches, right? So
Yeah.
if you can find a niche and become the rock star in your niche, that you have a lot better chance of getting the clients and staying there. But unfortunately, when you're a new agent, it's a lot harder getting the markets and finding that niche out. And the other thing too is figuring out what markets, like getting appointments. Is a very big challenge for all scratch agents. Some people would join one of the aggregator groups like Indium, I forget, the SIA. There's a bunch of them in the US where people join them to get volume, to grow to that, to control your own contracts. Obviously, you'd love to control your own contracts if you can, obviously for contingent profit and other control. But on the other hand, getting the size and scale nowadays to compete is very hard.
Yeah.
So you're protected a little bit better. You can have more choice. But beware, if you're trying to write home insurance and auto insurance, business insurance, and you've got 10 markets or 15 markets and you're new, that could be troublesome trying to learn
Agreed.
the markets and the rules. So that's a big thing to look at.
Yeah.
And then your tech stack. How are you going to do business? And my big thing is a standard operating procedure, getting your process, or I call it process in Canada, you call it process. Chris Paradiso and I bust each other about that all the time. I always joke with him, is it a professor or a professional? But anyway, whatever you want to call it. But I think it's really important to nail down your process and best practices and get some help with that. Beautiful thing called ChatGPT is amazing to help you get stuff. There's a lot of different ways you can get best practices, but figure out what you want to do, and then you can find the technology and the stuff to do it. And when I spoke on my AI conference, everybody thinks AI is the top of the mountain. AI is a climbing gear to get to the top. The top of the mountain is building standard processes to get trust at scale. And that's what we're trying to do. We're in the trust business. The policies are the receipt. So we're trying to figure out how do we build trust with people as fast as we can. And again, back to the agency, you need to get a good website and a good footprint. You need to basically make sure you show up in your area. So getting lots of reviews. There's the old SEO play, which takes some time, but now we're into, you guys are familiar with AEO, GEO, agentic engine optimization. People are, I've noticed our traffic has dropped, So now people are typing in ChatGPT, dragging a policy. Hey, get me a cheap home insurance rate in Clinton, New York, and all of a sudden, do you show up in there or not? Generally, instead of a whole page of blue links, you're going to have one or two options. So you need to start thinking about not only SEO and GEO, but that's stuff you have to look at. And again, that's a longer play. I think it's really important you got to hustle and get some action. One of the old things that never fails is make a list of all your family and friends, of 300-400 people and start cold calling and working that list. Nobody wants to do that anymore with AI and tech tools out there. You can buy, Sonata.ai, for instance. You can buy something that would call and book appointments for you. I think it's good to make that personal touch, though. It's better coming from you. But you start off with your friends and family and build that trust and get the referrals. Those are basics that I call it blocking and tackling. Those have always worked. They always will. But people are looking at your website, your LinkedIn profile. Make sure you have really good digital fumes. And you can fake it before you make it. You don't have to lie, but makes yourself look impressive, and make sure that your digital brand stands out. For the new agents out there, people are 60% of the buying happens before sometimes they call you. They're looking at your social media, looking at your reviews. Are you the real deal, or do you look like you could be gone tomorrow? It's really good to portray that confident image. So those are some things, a lot to unpack there, but those are some things that if I was starting a scratch agent from all over again, or I bought a small agency, those are all things that I would do. And maybe not that order is fairly decent, but those are all decisions you have to make. And unfortunately, you got to build the airplane while you're in flight. So you're busy trying to write stuff during the day. You got to block some time, whether it's on weekends and nights, to work on your marketing. Disciplined. I think you have to carve out time to work on your marketing, that intentionality, because people don't put that time in, and then the funnel's full, and then all of a sudden it's empty and they don't know what to do. Do that work, do a little bit every day, and AI can help you do a lot of this stuff a lot faster and cheaper. There's never been a better time in human history to be able to build a lot of this stuff and get off the ground with very low spend. But you have to make sure that what you serve out there is reflective of your brand. It doesn't look cheesy, doesn't look like AI. Google Banana's got a lot better. I'm sure Gemini, it looks a lot better. You can actually, it does images better, but you got to make sure that it's real and it's you. Yeah. So that's my advice to scratch agents.
I love that, Jeff. Two things. One, I love the part about drawing out the vision. If a book I highly recommend around that subject specifically, There's No Plan B for Your A Game by Bo Eason. He literally talks about drawing it with like pen and paper and coloring it and making it as vivid as possible. And like you said, carving out time to isolate yourself and spend time focusing on that, right? So I love that you brought that up. And
well, people spend too much time working in their business, not on their business, right? The whole idea of 40 days in the forest instead of one day sharpening the axe, right? So
yeah. And then the second part, something I just really wanted to ask you. It was like maybe like a year and a half ago, I asked like Billy Wagner, Brett Young. I asked some larger agency owner friends that I know, and I just said, hey guys, I'm just curious, for someone who's growing a newer agency that's trying to grow a larger agency, what are like 2 daily activities you would recommend that they do?
I know what they would say.
What?
Billy, that's pretty good Rolodex. I was just talking about Billy Wagner last week. He's a rock star, and if you look at how he built Brightway, we're centers of influence. So that's a master lesson. I hope he's on your show. I've looked at his information. I had a few other people that are the guys from Boston that sold their agency. They were very good. Matt and Zach, GNR Insurance. And again, the guys that own Glovebox, they all get very good at getting mortgage brokers, real estate agents, getting leads coming in. I call them centers of influence. That is a huge, huge thing. So I would put that as a key thing on your list. Become the trusted advisor. Your referral rate from centers of influence, your close ratio generally is anywhere from 70 to 80%. If you're using Google ads, organic stuff on the web, you're probably closing at 5 or 10%. So the ROI you spend building those relationships are huge.
I agree.
So in spirit of those people, I'm glad you dropped those names, because I would say the COI thing is really critical. And also, I would also say, make sure you have a referral program. Michael McLean, I was in his mastermind group in 2011. I sat with some of the best agents across the U.S. And my wife Una and I probably learned 50 things the first meeting, implemented 15 of them. But making sure you have an e-blast that goes out in a referral program is huge, because what we did is, I think we do $20 for a Tim Hortons coffee, which might be a Dunkin' Donuts. I don't know, Steve, you might know in your area there might be.
I got one Tim Hortons.
I like Tim. Yep. I like Tim Hortons way better than Starbucks, because I actually know what the hell I'm ordering. I don't know what a Frappuccino, an Alpacino, whatever. I struggle with it, but I like a simple, large regular coffee at Tim Hortons is great. But we give it a $20, and then we give a $100 draw every month for a prize. We had times where we'd give $100 and do a $100 donation to charity. People struggled to figure out how to donate to charity. It was really weird, but that didn't work as well. And then we have a $2,000 grand prize at the end of the year, whether it's a makeover or a trip or something like that. So we generally love referrals. We close at a high rate. We send a handwritten thank you card out to every referral to the person giving the referral. So we make a big deal out of it. And if you get a bunch of people referring you, it's really smart to have a list of your best referrers and keep in touch with them. So I would say an internal referral program is huge, and COIs. And again, this is more personal lines. Obviously, commercial lines is a little bit different. I don't know if I'll maybe focus more on personal lines today, but there's obviously some things that are really important for commercial lines too. Just maintaining the relationship with the clients, networking groups, chambers, different things. Just getting out there, and doing some things is really, really important. So
I got a lot to.
So that's what I'm jumping on the back of shoulder.
No, I love it.
Shoulders are giants. There,
I love it. I just want to make one comment, and then Shawn, you kind of took that last question I had, but I think what you talked about finding mentors or talking to people and how amazing people are in this industry. I've shared this story before, but to share it with you quickly, like Mike Crowley was a huge mentor, and I know you know Mike, and he is Mike's awesome. I tell people he's my insurance older brother. I had lunch with him yesterday, and if it wasn't for him, I would not have started the agency, point blank period, right? And so he was a huge mentor in getting me to that point, and still is a mentor of mine. And then God led me to Shawn, and Shawn and I have become brothers in this scratch journey that we're in. Shawn's a year ahead of me starting, but I tell people we're on the same escalator. We're just on different steps, right? And if it wasn't for the relationship that Shawn and I have built, to call on those bad days, to call when you have that big account that you're not sure what to do with, you're lonely, you don't know what to do. So I think we can't just skip over that, because it's so huge to have people that are doing the same thing to bounce stuff off of. Jeff,
oh my God. Well, I want to share a story, because my father, he had one employee, and he basically was a single agent for probably 15 years. And, he went away on holidays for a month, and the head office had to look after things. And he had to bottle all that stress. He didn't have anybody to talk to. He had high blood pressure. And when we set up the cluster, he was actually able to share with people. And that's really the first time that he was able to say, hey, I'm going through this. And you have somebody that understands you. So that is a huge thing. And bravo to both of you. Mike Crowley is a rock star. He actually texted me, he goes, sorry, I couldn't be at Indie Tech. I couldn't make it, right? So he's a rock star in the industry. So one of my big things I'll tell you is you become the 5 people you hang out
100%.
with the most. Choose wisely. And people say all these things, you read them, and it takes you a while to get, you get 30s and 40s, you start looking back at who came in for a season, who came into your life for a reason. It's really crazy when I look back at how I've met the Jason Casses and the Ryan Hanleys and the Chris Paradizos. I was in Canada and I just met them online, reached out. Now they're great friends, and those people have changed how I think, and they've changed how I've been successful. There's not one thing that caused me to be successful. It's 20 or 30 little things. It's not, what do they say, pounding the rock. They say in basketball, you hit the stonemason hits it 3,000 times, and the 3,001 it moves. That's where you have to do, and that's where you need the Shawns of the world to say, hey, I know you're having a bad day, but it's okay. Tomorrow will be better. Your fridge is full of beer. You'll be okay. Just brush it off. I had that happen too. And here's what I did. And that's a big thing, because you can save years off your scratch agency and by just collecting this information and sharing it. So bravo. I think that's a good call up right there.
Jeff, one thing you talked about is the vision, and the last, I would say, 5 episodes, this has come up. It's really been a topic of like, what is that North Star that you're chasing? My question for you is, with all of your experience that you talked about it with the cluster, with growing the family agency, all of those things, Has that vision changed, and how have you navigated that change in your vision?
Well, it's funny. Simon Sinek, The Why. Have you read the book or watched the
Yep.
video? For all the people watching the podcast, watch the YouTube. I know everybody's busy, and if you're really busy, watch it at 1.5 times. You'll get the idea. But I had to figure out when we did all our branding, and I shared this when I was in Chicago, is what was our why? And I couldn't figure out our why, and it was so weird, And then Una and I sat there and reflected. She raised millions of dollars for the hospital foundation to help buy stuff, and she ran the galas and did a very good job for over a decade. I was involved in goalie skill, Kinsman. I helped out, probably 500 to 600 hours of donated time to the industry to help connectivity, technology, help brokers be better. We donated, tens of thousands of dollars to, different causes in our community. We helped build, help raise money to raise 1 million to build a new arena. There's just things that we did throughout our life. And we look back and go, you know what? Our goal, our why is to champion people. That's why we exist. And again, that's why I go down to speak in India. I want to champion people. I want the industry better than I found it. So that's in my DNA. That's who I am. I can't help myself, maybe to a fault. How do I do that? I try and go above and beyond to make people's day. What do? I'm in the insurance business. And Billy Williams, I don't know if you know Billy Williams. I offer people the coverage to maintain their quality of life should a claim occur. The best explanation I've ever heard of insurance in all my travels. Billy Williams is the man.
We love Billy.
I'll give him a shout out here. He's got like a $1,500 coaching program he's got that you can sign up for, that he's got all the processes and procedures written down. He'll take you from 0 to hero or from 0 to 10 million. He's got that all there and scalable. I would suggest if a scratch agency wants a hands down amazing resource, Billy Williams has got some great stuff. I still pay for it because I'm relearning some stuff because he can explain things so well and so good. So anyway, yeah, just a couple things.
I want to talk about the relationships. Shawn started with Billy, introduced me to Billy. Now I'm with Billy.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's an example right there.
Oh, I'm sorry. These things I didn't know, right?
Yeah, exactly.
We're doing this all live and riffing, but it's amazing. I believe in the law of attraction. Like you put something out in the universe. It's weird. I don't know how, but just things come. You throw something out there, and people will show up to help you. Those people that stay private or quiet, they're stuck behind their desk. If you're out, I call it making collisions, meeting people, having conversations, throwing your thoughts on social media, and hopefully their thoughts are real. They're just not, you're doing it for a purpose. I feel that. So really my North Star hasn't changed because I dialed it in probably in 2014. And, my problem I have is if I can't feel I can contribute or people are stifling that hurts me. Or, I struggle with that because I have a lot to give. And sometimes I can't always do that in certain situations. So that can be tricky. When you're a scratch agent, your biggest, the biggest competition, if you look in the mirror, is yourself, And one of the best lines my mentor said to me, and I'll never forget that, Rick said, Jeff, you know what people are worried about? They're worried you're going to get your shit together. And I thought that was a great line, right? Like, cause how, I could be doing better. Get your shit together, get that extra level, get that 1% better every week, 52% in a year, that whole compounding thing. And again, the problem is if you get off on a tangent, you're not doing your reading, not doing your daily success rituals, you can drift. And there's so many things out there when people have an attention span of 8 seconds of a goldfish that everybody can be distracted. And it's so hard to stay focused and run your agency at a high level or brokerage and maintain that level. I know I've ran a brokerage for 36 years and I've seen the good, the bad, the ugly. I've been through a lot. I've had my doubt days. I've had my good days. I've had the highs and the lows. I can empathize with anybody. I've dealt with probably all the situations everybody's dealt with, and I've got better coping mechanisms, but things still hurt, right? But it's not what happens, but how you deal with what happens that makes the difference, right? Yeah. No, well, obviously, core stuff is you need to have a very good website that's passing core vitals, that loads properly, that has the right messaging on there, that gets conversion. That's core. You have to have an AMS or BMS. I'm hearing in the US, Agency Zoom everybody kept talking about it. I met Mo from Agency Zoom. I was blown away by him. I didn't know him very well. Agency Zoom seems to be a really good one. Now Certs has become something else. So there seems to be some good options out there in terms of the AMS. And I'll say BMS, Broker Management System from Canada, AMS, Agency Management System. Unfortunately, you need that for connectivity generally, but in the back end. But you do need a CRM, and Agency Zoom is more the CRM. We use Trufla, a great product from Canada, and we also use Zoho. Two good products for a CRM. Applied Systems and AMS 360. They're great systems, and AMS 360's got agency Zoom on it, but they're not designed as a CRM. When a lead comes in, in our world, we need to assign it to a salesperson, immediately send a text and an email, and pick the phone up in 2 minutes. That is what we're trying to do, but we're closed at night. We're closed on the weekends, so we have nobody doing anything. So that's where adding an agentic agent into that flow, I think, is really key. And that's something in terms of a tech stack. And if you're a smaller agency, do you have a via virtual assistant? Do you scale with that? Do you have somebody else, somebody at a lower pay grade that can do the busy work that doesn't add value to your agency? Those things can be outsourced. Seth Zarumba has Be Atomic. He's got a very great service where you can say, hey, every time I do a change, I'll send it to them. And he either has an API to do it, he's got a VA to do it, or he's got a tech stack to do it. He's got 3 ways, and he can do things at a bucket transaction that would cost you, $8 or $10. Or if you're a scratch agent, you want to be selling. You don't want to be servicing as much. You want to be getting in front of people and growing that top line revenue to grow into where you get service. So those are some things that, hey, what can I outsource? What do I need to have? There's some other things in the U.S. We have applied rating services. I've got all my personal lines rates. The rates are accurate. They're connected by an API or book rates, so I can rate everything by pressing a button. I don't need to go to 10 portals. I don't need to hold my tongue and do certain things. In the U.S., there's a lot of games being played by carriers. People are not making it easy to write business because they don't want to write business. So that's been tricky. So a product called Gaia. I don't know if you heard of Gaia. It's copy and paste on steroids. I'm an advisor at 101 Weston Labs in North Carolina with Avi Knight and a bunch of great agents. That was one of the people that came through. I like them. They're not in Canada yet. As soon as they come to Canada, I'm signing up immediately. But the Gaia can help you copy and paste and help you do portals a lot better. There's a few other great tools out there that I think will help you to capture that information right off the bat and get it. Just some, a lot of these tools aren't expensive. Just a matter of, those are some of the, I would say, table stakes. And one of the last things, I haven't thought about this until I went to Indie Tech, but there's a product called Whisper where it actually captures all your talking and puts it right into your system. And I'm an old school typer, and I can probably type 60, 70 words a minute. Typing was probably the best class I took in high school. Didn't know it at the time. But I think that really changes the game. If you can speak and capture it, your call recording software that's built into your, I didn't say VoIP system. Obviously, VoIP system is really key to be able to record phone calls, to be able to get the transcripts and the sentiment analysis from those phone calls and get them layered into your BMS system or AMS system or CRM. I should have mentioned that, but that's table stakes. You got to make sure you have a great one that does all those things. So again, you can get all those things at a fairly cheap rate, a lot cheaper than what they were, probably 5 years ago, to bundle all that together and get that sorted out. But that would be, website, AMS, CRM, basically the VoIP system, and a couple of tools to be able to move data back and forth. I think those are some very entry level stuff I would look at.
That's good.
I'm not going to get into marketing, but that's kind of my Jeff Roy's Swiss Army knife of scratch agency.
I love that you brought up Whisper because I know Steven uses it well. But one of the ways I started using it about a month ago, and I'm hooked on it, is so we use Gmail in the office, and now Gemini is built into the Gmail app. So I'm using, I did a custom gem inside of Gemini, and I use Whisper to talk right into Gemini, reply to this email, and let them know if they raise the deductible to this, it'll change the price X amount of dollars, and it just does it, automatically puts it in, done. It's so much quicker. I love it. So
sweet. It's one of these things that, like, there's an example of, small hinges move big doors.
Yeah.
Like, you think about that, you save yourself 2 or 3 hours a day, or like even a half an hour a day, and you're a scratch agent, and that money goes to actually closing sales. That could be a lifeline.
It's huge.
Right? So everything counts.
Yep.
Everything counts. And as I get older, and the Germans said it best: too soon old, too late smart. Wish I was smarter sooner. But I'm always learning. I always have the mind of a child, and my wife thinks I am a child sometimes, but we won't talk about that today. But I always want to stay green and growing. And I always encourage that people, hey, I'm 55. I've got a lot of experience, maybe a little bit of wisdom, but I still have so much to learn.
Yeah.
And I'm a learn it all, not a know it all. And I want to be very clear. You need to have that kind of mindset, because I thought I knew it all out of university, my university degree had a half-life of about 3 or 4 years, and you have to continue to teach yourself how to learn your entire life, or you get left behind. Digital Darwinism, not necessarily the smartest, but the one who works hardest and figures it out is the one that survives. And you have to put that grind in there. So you need that fire in your belly as a scratch agent, and that takes you from ordinary to extraordinary.
Jeff, I got to ask you about, um, you mentioned at the beginning of the podcast 1,200 leads a month, right? But then where you really got me is something I'm going through right now. So we started paid ads through Meta and Google probably 8 months ago. And I noticed the same thing. We're closing 10. Google, we're closing about 15. Meta, we're closer to the 10% range. But what I'm noticing is exactly what you're saying. After hours and weekends, specifically for the paid ads, I would say probably 50% of them come in around that time. So I know you quickly glossed over agentic AI and how that might play a role in it. What would you recommend? I'm throwing myself in the hot seat. What would you recommend is something I look into to figure out how to, because I want to contact them, but I'm not doing it at 8 o'clock at night. I'm not doing it at 7 a.m. on a Saturday.
Sonnet.ai,
Sonnet.
I looked at. I had a meeting with them this week. I thought they were good. Gale, I've heard good things, and I've heard, it was first to the game. We have a product in Canada called Koyos that does it. And there's 3 or 4 carriers that are specifically in the insurance space to do that. So I think that's important.
Yeah.
And as I said, we were probably at our peak doing 800, 900, 1,000 leads. We've had a lot of projects in the last 6 months where our lead count's gone down because we could not do the things that we did. So we've had a decline in leads. So it showed you all the SEO work and all the hard stuff we did really paid off. And we've had a decline. Plus search is down. I'm guessing 10 to 20%. Organic search will be down because people are going to agentic.
Yeah.
You convert agentic better, but you get less agentic leads. So what I would do is just some advice to you, Shawn, is, what does it cost per lead? Is your cost per lead $10?
Meta is about, let's call it 15, and Google's probably about 30.
Okay, 15, and you're closing at 10%?
Yeah. Let's just use a round number. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so what do you, roughly $150 acquisition cost? I always take the cost per lead divided by the close ratio. That gives your acquisition cost. So I think agents don't track that. You need to have a funnel where you can say, hey, I paid $30 a lead. Now, if it's 10% close ratio on $30, it's $300. What's your revenue on your auto and the home? Is it $250, $300? A lot of people, I always think if you can break even 1-to-1 in year one, that's good.
Oh, yeah.
Or I would take a bit of a loss if I had to, if my retention was high enough, because if you get the client and keep them for 5 years, lifetime value, pick it up, right? Mm-hmm. So one of the things that I would teach scratch agents is know your ROI on what you're doing. If I spend $1, do I save $1? Am I making $1? If I put $1 here, am I getting, 80 cents back? Am I getting $10? Shawn, I think that's a really important thing when you put yourself in the hot seat is look at what I'm doing and track that. Because people are growing, but some people are paying to grow, and they're actually growing into a negative loss, and they have to cash flow that, right? Again, sometimes you have to spend money to get up to a certain size and scale up. I lose money for a couple of years, get to a critical point. That's part of my plan. Great. Masters of scale, scaling up, whatever it takes to get the size. That might be a model, or other people go, hey, I want to make money along the way. I want to grow profitably. So that's a decision you have to make as an agent. What's my break-even point? What do I have to get to, right? So anyway, that's my answer to the question.
Awesome. And Jeff, have you used any of the voice AI to reach out to leads yet, or no?
I'm currently, I have not, because I am trying to research the best solution. I don't think they were there last year. And then I also have to figure out, how do you bolt it into your CRM? How do you put a human in the loop to make sure it's saying things properly? Sure. You just don't buy something and put it on autopilot and hope it works. You have to review transcripts. There's just things you have to do. So anyway, So hopefully that was helpful, guys.
Thank you.
I guess we're getting to the top of the hour here. So that was amazing chat. Yeah. Awesome.
Awesome, Jeff. Thanks so much for the time, man. That was awesome.